When something bad happens to you, there are three things you can blame: yourself, other people, or circumstance. And the only thing that benefits you is to blame yourself. The only thing you should focus on is yourself. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about victim mentality, victimhood, what it means to play the victim, why it's not a good thing to do, and it doesn't benefit at all. It doesn't benefit you, it doesn't benefit anyone else around you to be the victim. And that's why I personally, don't really like people that are victims in their own lives. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to tell you as to why this is an important thing. So this is an important concept because in life that's the case. And I think it was Alex Hormozy that said it, where that's it. Whenever something happens to you, there are really three things that caused it. It was either a result of yourself, your own actions, your own decisions, other people's decisions that affected you, or circumstantial things that nobody could control. It was God's will, whatever you want to call it. There are only really three things. But even if it wasn't necessarily your fault, and regardless of whether or not it was actually had anything to do with you, you should always focus on yourself, what you did wrong to cause that bad thing to happen, whatever it may be. Because if you put the focus on other people, blame God even, you absolutely should not blame God. It's just not a great feeling at all, and it's not going to get anybody anywhere. The only thing that's going to get someone somewhere is if you take accountability for yourself and really recognize your own faults and try and do better from it. Blaming the other two does not serve you in any way, nor does it garner any respect for you. And I know people in my life that are victims, and I've kind of looked and observed and I've seen because of the things that I've experienced in my life. And I'm over here like, yeah, it's just not the right way to think about situations. Like I go through a situation and I'll be talking about something happens and I'm like, oh, this is a great thing. And then they freaking find some negative way to talk about it that somehow encapsulates them into it as being the person that's suffering. I don't know, man. It's just so weird. And it's like why even say it? I don't know. But I've seen just like the weakness that is in people that blame others and that fail to take self-accountability. Self-accountability isn't, beating yourself up, destroying yourself, blaming yourself, self-deprecating. No. It's about recognizing and being conscious of the fact that, okay, there's always something you can do better. And once you know that, once you've learned that, you can really just improve in yourself and, fix the mistakes that you made. Or you might not have even made them, but still fix it so maybe your efforts can make it so whatever happened doesn't happen again. But blaming the other two does not serve you. It does not help you in any way. It doesn't help anyone in any way. Blaming other people is just kind of a coping mechanism. You're just coping by the fact that oh yeah, you can offset the blame to someone else, right? Oh, it's not my fault. It's okay. You don't have to worry about that. It's not gonna help anyone, right? I'm gonna use a couple of soccer, football examples because that's where I come from. That's my background. It's like if someone gives me a bad pass, but I can't control it and I miscontrol it, and then obviously the other team steals and goes and scores. You can look at that in two situations. You can look at that as, oh, he gave me a bad pass, so it's okay. Or you can say, it was a bad pass, but I should have controlled it. I know I'm good enough to control even a bad pass. Which one helps you more, right? Which one helps you more? Blaming yourself or blaming others? Blaming the person that gave you the pass is just going to cause negativity within the team, and it's just going to build up resentment. Blaming yourself means that after the game, you go out and you train your touch and you train certain things and you get better as a player as a result. That's a great example. And if you're blaming the other person, it's just they're going to play worse, you're going to play worse. That's just how it is. And if you don't, you can use that energy to move forward and make sure that these things don't happen again. And you can be the guy that kind of makes that happen, right? Nobody has empathy for people that play the victim and point fingers at others. Nobody cares. I mean, maybe it is like a coping mechanism. It's a thing to try and get you to kind of, receive the dopamine satisfaction from someone else, like being like comforting you, saying, oh, it's okay, don't worry, it's fine, right? You're looking for that satisfaction and you're looking for that praise even. And I don't know what you're looking for when you play the victim, but regardless, it doesn't actually happen. No one actually shows you empathy. And I've had to learn that the hard way, because I know that I've had situations that's happened to me where it's like even a more circumstantial thing, things I can't really control, and then it leads me to making a mistake. But no one cares what happened before. People just look at the mistake you made and say, and then they judge you because of it, right? So if you take self accountability, you're going to not make that mistake again, or you're going to do everything in your power to make sure you don't make that mistake again, regardless of circumstances that's happening to you. I've had moments where I was like injured, I was sore, I was running heavy, I was just in the game and I didn't really feel it. Then I'd make a mistake and then I'd be, subbed off. And that's what taught me, right? That it just has nothing to do with everything else. They don't care about the things you're dealing with. Nobody cares about the things you're dealing with. They care about the results. They care about what actually is seen. So knowing that, it should just make it so much more obvious to you that it's like, okay, let's stop being the victim here and instead take control of my life, take control of myself, and let's get better and let's do better to make sure that whatever happened doesn't happen again. And yes, self-accountability is infinitely more noble than self-deprecation and victimhood, victim mentality, because again, it helps you and it helps you grow, and it's just the mindset that you're trying to grow and get better, and the humility that you did something wrong and you're willing to call it out, rather than just offsetting the blame, offsetting the responsibility to other people or to circumstances. Oh, there's nothing I can do. There's never nothing you can do. There's always something you can do that will make the situation better and make it so that you don't make the same mistake again. There's always something you can do, whether however minuscule, however small, or even big, if it was actually your fault. And of course, that's also a thing with victims. It's like, if you play the victim, it's like everything seems to nothing ever seems to be your fault, right? You always seem to just get away with it, right? Even if it actually is your fault, not recognizing that it's your fault is just a super destructive thing, again, for the reasons I've already outlined, that other people will know it's your fault. Other people will realize that. Maybe they won't tell you. Sometimes people are, blunt and blatantly honest, and they do tell you that it's your fault. In which case, then you would maybe make some excuse up, saying, "Oh, no, it wasn't because of this, this, and this," or blame circumstance, right? You would start by blaming other people, and then if other people call you out, you'll actually say, "Oh no, okay, no, it's because of circumstances, because of this, this, this." But really, you're just trying to cope with the fact that it was your fault, and you have to do better, and you have to improve in the mistake you made. And just recognize the ability to recognize that, not deprecate yourself and destroy yourself, but the ability to recognize that, be self-accountable. It allows you to shake off that victimhood mentality, because it doesn't benefit anyone, and actually make those steps towards improvement, actually analyzing the situation, the mistake you made, and be like, okay, what could I have done better here? Even if it wasn't necessarily all my fault. Or if it was all my fault, it's the humility to call out your own faults and your own mistakes. And if it wasn't even all your fault, or maybe not even your fault at all, still finding a way that you can do better serves you in a better way than it does to just blame other people, blame circumstance, or even blame God. A lot of people just offset it to God. They'd be like, oh yeah, it was God's fault or whatever. God didn't want this to happen. But I can tell you that's not the case, and that's absolutely the wrong way to go about it as well. It's just not. That's just not how it works, right? God puts you through tests. God puts you through tribulation, through suffering, and sometimes you make mistakes because it's a lesson from God to teach you to be self-accountable, teach you how to get better and improve, not just to, again, find a way to cope with the situation and just blame him, rather than just get your head down and keep working and going and keep moving. And again, as I said, I had to learn this the hard way. I was called out by my coach a couple times when I was out there in Portugal grinding, trying to make it as a professional. I was called out, right? Sometimes I would make a bad decision, or I would do something that was not, like, what was, there was things that happened that wasn't necessarily all my fault. And in the moment, right? So what happened was, I played in a friendly game the day before, and the next day was the final game of the season. I would have played for the very first time with the men's team, the highest level that we had at my club, and and he took me off the team sheet. I didn't even realize that I would have played. There was this whole thing. It was like in the moment, other people were saying that it was their fault. They're blaming themselves. And I was just kind of confused as to, well, why did I get called out in front of the entire team, and then all the other team, the entire team is like, scolding me and hating me, and it's like in that moment I didn't realize, and I was over here trying to blame other people, but then I eventually came to the conclusion that even if it wasn't all my fault, there were definitely things in that situation I couldn't control. It was my fault that I should have at least recognized it, maybe asked someone, inquired if I would play, so then I wouldn't have played in the game before, the day before. And there was always something I could have done to make it better. And then when I realized that, I'm like, oh, okay, so that was the lesson in that, right? I finally, after a little while, learned the lesson in that, when in the moment I was actually very confused as to why he was calling me out in front of the whole team. I learned later that yes, it wasn't all my fault, but there was definitely things I could have done to maybe make it so that it didn't happen. And there are many other situations where I would make a mistake. I'd have an amazing game, right? I'd have like the best game of the season, but then I would make one mistake, and that one mistake leads to a goal, and we lose the game. And then, at the end of the game, I'm seeking validation. I'm catching myself in the moment, seeking validation, seeking, oh, I played well, right? I had a good game, right? And I learned from those moments to say that, well, yeah, it doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter. You can do everything right, but that one mistake is what cost your team. And it's the same thing in life. You can do everything well, but then make one oversight, and you just lose everything. That's unfortunately the cruelty of life. And well, I had to learn that the hard way a few times. And those are just a couple of examples of where I learned that victimhood, victimization, self-deprecation is nothing that's actually going to benefit you or anyone. My team doesn't get better if I just, accept it, right? My team only gets better if I strive to get better to make sure that the mistake doesn't happen again. Because obviously then, it's my team that ends up losing because of the mistake, regardless of how well I played before. People easily forget, and that's another thing in football that I've learned. People easily forget the good things that you've done, and it's very easy for them to remember the bad things. It's very easy. You can win, 90% of your duels, maybe not. You can even win every single one and only make one mistake. People will remember the mistake. People will call you out for the mistake, criticize you for the mistake, but they won't praise you for any of the great things you did, because the mistake is what cost you. It's what cost you the game. It's what cost you the title. It's what cost you whatever. And that's an absolutely, transferable skill and quality to understand in life. That's how it is. It only takes one mistake. No one will praise you for the good things. They will usually, unless they're good people, but usually, most of the time, people will only call you out for the bad thing you do. So then, going through these things, you ask yourself, well, do I cope? Do I blame other people? Do I blame circumstance? Do I blame God? Or do I blame myself, realize that it was my fault, I could have done better, and seek to improve and get better? I think, to me, that's an easy answer. It's an easy answer to that question. You absolutely have to call yourself out and do better, because that's how you're going to get better. That's how your team's going to get better. That's how everyone around you is going to get better, because you've now kind of cultivated the culture that you're not going to make a mistake like that again. It doesn't have to be football related. It could be anywhere. And that you're going to truly strive to do better. So yeah, in life, when under pressure, regardless of what it is, if it's in a sport, it could be in boxing, in the ring, right? It could be in any other team sport, or it can be, in a business conference meeting, or you're writing an exam or something like that. And something goes wrong, people will blame you for it anyway. Regardless of if it was actually your fault, there will be people out there that will actually blame you, right? It's kind of reverse victimhood, right? Like, they're blaming you, you want to blame them, but they're actually blaming you because they see it as your fault. Maybe it could have actually been your fault. Then obviously the answer is obvious, right? You have to take self-accountability. But it could have been something that wasn't necessarily your fault, but you just got the blame for it because you were the guy in the wrong place at the wrong time. So being in the wrong place at the wrong time, what does that mean? It's like, try not to be in that place again. Try not to be in the wrong place at the wrong time again. Instead of like hating people because they blame you and being like, oh, or like being confused, being like, oh, why are they blaming me? Because Like, and then ending up having resentment for these people because you think they're unreasonable for blaming you. Regardless of whether or not they are, you shouldn't really worry about that. You should realize that if someone blames you for anything, any mistake you make, especially under immense amounts of pressure, then clearly there was at least something you did wrong, at least some little thing that made a difference, that at least made them come to you and blame you for whatever happened. So if that's the case, then again, same things I've already talked about, that there's absolutely no use in trying to argue with them, no use in trying to prove yourself as being the noble person, prove yourself as being this perfect person that didn't do anything wrong, and instead recognize that there was at least something you did wrong, figure out what it was, and seek to do better so it doesn't happen again. Or even if it does happen again, like you know that you actually did everything you could to prevent whatever happened from happening. And again, understand that people will blame you, but instead of offsetting your blame to them, we're not victims. We don't want to be the victim. We want to be the person that is self-accountable. We want to be the person that understands that, or at least is tuned into reality, that it's most of the time it is our fault, and even if it's not our fault, there's things we can do better. And that's the whole essence of it. And it just makes you stronger as well. It makes you a stronger person, a more respected person among the people around you if people see that you take self-accountability, and it will just give you more respect in your life and in your relationships and in the people around you as well, and of course in yourself, to know that we're on this life of growth and we're trying to get better every day. So instead of playing the victim, you actually use each and every circumstance to get better. So I'm going to answer the question: why have I learned to kind of rebuke victim mentality? What has happened in my life to kind of cause me to kind of see it in the way I see it? Well, first and foremost, of course, it stunts personal growth. That's the most obvious thing. It's just an ignorant thing to blame other people, and it's just like you're not actually recognizing your own faults, and it's a bit arrogant, a bit ignorant even. And regardless of what happened, again, I tell the stories of what happened, on my team when I was playing football. Some of these things weren't necessarily my fault, but if I look at it as other people's fault, I won't grow from it. So because I looked at it and found them as my fault, I've grown from it. And now I understand these things because of the growth that I got from these lessons. And of course, it just gives off the feeling of weakness. Like, it's just some innate energy that's coming out of you, and the negative vibes that you're the victim. You're the one that's the sufferer. You're the one that's always just, you're always blaming others. You're always blaming a group of people. And I might talk about this in future, like, the ideas of racism and feminism. It's all victimhood. It's all victim mentality. You put it on racism, you put it on sexism, but when in reality, it's like, it's actually your own fault. Or maybe sometimes it's actually because of these things, but for a lot of these terms have been watered down because people use them so often, and it's just to play the victim, to just kind of blame them for something that, it's not really, like, there's no racism, no sexism, no nothing there, right? So it just gives off the feeling of weakness. It gives off the feeling that, like, you're just not going to be a formidable person. You're not going to, make anything of yourself in your life. And those are not the type of people that I want to be around. I want to be around killers. I want to be around people that grow. I want to be around people that take self-accountability, because I do myself as well. And I want people that understand this idea and understand that we're out here trying to pursue constant growth, improvement, self-betterment, and we're trying to continue to improve together. I don't want to be around people that are like, and unfortunately in this part of my life, I am unfortunately around some people like that, and there's nothing I can do about it. but I don't want to be around this. It's just a weak energy, and I don't want weak energies around me. I want strong energies around me, because it can allow me and the people around me to grow together and bounce off each other and truly improve and truly achieve great things from this life. And you're not going to achieve great things in this life if you're always blaming other people. If you're always kind of crying because everyone hates, I don't know, you're the feeling that, like, everyone hates you, or like the overwhelm of that, like the anxiety of that. But that's not that's not the case. And if you can just be humble to the fact that, you made the mistake and there are things you can do to do better, and instead of offsetting it by freaking talking about racism and whatever and saying, oh, they're being racist, but reality, maybe it was a behavior you did that was actually like not a good behavior regardless. You got to look at it. You got to freaking actually go in and analyze it and and find the growth from it. No one respects victims. No one really shows empathy for victims, and it's just a weakness. And it's not a weakness that a lot of people want to be around in their lives. I certainly don't want to be around in my life. The weakness of just a weak energy that's shown by people that just are playing the victim to everything. And well, these people live with more regrets because they blame other people for who they are. They're in this situation because of this person. This circumstance caused them this thing to happen to them. It makes them live life with more regret because they blame other people for the things that, if they just were conscious enough to go out and fix themselves, they'd live a better life and they'd have better lives. They'd be more happy, more positive, and they'd be a better energy to be around you. But because they've just spent their whole lives blaming other people and offsetting all of their problems as other people's issues, now they're in the place that they are with regrets. And, that's what I invite you to do, right? Recognize that. And, you can live a life with as little regrets as possible if you just take self-accountability. So I will end this episode by just calling that out, giving you that message. If you have tendencies to play the victim, to be the victim, stop doing that. Stop being the victim. Instead, learn to be self-accountable, regardless of whether or not it was actually your fault in a certain situation. Again, I gave a couple of examples, but we all live different lives, and I'm sure that you are all going through many different things as well. And you're in different sports, you're in different environments, you're in different places, different roles, different jobs. Regardless of where you are in life and regardless of what thing you're in, playing the victim will not get you anywhere. Being self-accountable, regardless of whether or not the thing was actually your fault or your fault entirely, or the thing, like, understand that life doesn't happen to you. If life doesn't happen to you, it allows you to take control of yourself, improve, seek to do better every day, make less mistakes, improve from your faults, recognize your faults, and live a life with less regrets and live a more happy, positive life rather than being in the negativity that comes with being a victim, blaming other people. And, I'll take it back to the beginning of this episode where there are three things. There's three things. In every single situation in life, there are only three things that you can put the blame on, and only one actually helps you do better in yourself and in your life. You can blame yourself for the situation, you can blame other people, or you can blame circumstance. Maybe it will feel better in the moment to blame other people, to blame circumstance, but really to have a better life and to grow in yourself, you must blame yourself for absolutely everything. So take 100% self-accountability for everything that you do, and you'll live a better life. You'll find more peace, more happiness, and more joy, and you will constantly keep improving and growing and getting better, and you will have better relationships, better finances, better health, better everything if you just learn to be self-accountable rather than shifting the accountability, being a victim, playing the victim card, and just ruining everyone's lives by doing that as well. So that is my message to you. And of course, don't blame God. Like, that's the most important, probably. Many people just kind of offset their problems to God. Out of the three, you could say, oh, circumstance. Oh no, it was God's will, right? That's God creating the circumstance that caused you to be in this situation. No, just don't do that. Don't even fall into that line of thinking, because it's that line of thinking that'll lead to your own misery. That'll lead to your own life's destruction. So instead, be humble, be intentional, be conscious, be smart. Understand that most of the time, there is something you can do to solve the situation, and you'll get better from it.